This is Jerry Faust, Collections and Facilities Manager here at Dumbarton House. Glad everyone could join us this afternoon. I'm going to talk over the next 20 minutes or so about the major HVAC project that we undertook here at Dumbarton House. Excuse me, I seem to be having a little tickle in my throat. And some of the lessons that we learned as a result of this project that I think can easily be applied to not only other sites, but other project evaluations as organizations move forward. One of the first things that I found that is important, obviously, is at the very beginning of any project, preparing for any sort of large-scale project at Dumbarton House here, is to assemble your project team early and budget for their long-term involvement. Can't really stress this enough. It's important to have not only the project team as you understand it from your staff, but the project team that relates to the entire project, or however many aspects of the project are likely to be going on. Study and understand the history and condition of your site. Well, I'll explain more about each one of these items as we go through the presentation here. But it's critical to know really as best you can the condition of your site and your house. Understand the history of the system you're looking to replace, whatever that system may be. In our case, it was the HVAC system here at Dumbarton House, but it could be a security system or a key entry system, whatever the system might be. If you have one that's already in place, understanding its history and how it was put into place and its sort of quirks is key. Now you've noticed that I have here on both of these items a little asterisk at the end, because no matter how much you try to study and how much you try to understand, what you think you know will probably change once you start opening the walls. And that there is no exception to any project. Once you start opening the ceilings to run new ductwork or new wiring or whatever the case may be, you're going to run into issues that you had no possible clue about. It's not either a good or a bad thing. It is just the way construction projects tend to work themselves out. Another key factor to try to connect as many ancillary projects as possible as early as possible. You want to try to avoid the old, well, as long as we have the walls open, we might as well do this. If you are prepared, you can limit that sort of thing because you will have thought of every possible contingency. Now, that is really, in the whole scheme of things in reality, a little bit difficult to do. But you want to try to avoid the notion of, well, as long as we have the walls open, let's tackle this, because that leads to project mission creep, and as a result, it really messes with your budget, something you want to try to avoid as much as possible. Obviously, another key item that you want to try and prepare for with the project is how are you going to pay for the project. Discussions and figuring that out from the very beginning and before the very beginning are probably critical to any long-term success of a project. Evaluate the risk to collections and the historic structure. And again, this needs to be constantly revisited. You may assess the risk and you may feel you have prepared for it, but you will want to constantly revisit how the project is impacting these two particular aspects. If you move the collections off-site, which I would recommend doing in a large-scale project, you'll still want to, wherever it's moved to, occasionally check in, visit the collection, talk to the people who are in charge of caring for your collection while it's off-site, be in constant contact with them. And then, of course, the historic structure. Work is going to be going on in the structure. No matter how many historic sites that your contractors have worked on, there's always a tendency to want to simply start drilling holes or cutting walls because it is the mindset of many of the systems project people to just go and get the work done. Even though they may know and have worked in historic structures, you constantly need to be vigilant of that particular aspect. Leave time on both ends of a project for moving out and moving back in. Everyone on staff here at Dumbarton House can attest to the importance of that. It gives you really the sort of sense of not only security, but the sense of ease with particularly moving your offices out, not just the collection, but if you're working in the historic structure or some aspect of it, that's key. Moving back in, or whether it's just the collection, moving back in or out, for that matter, gives you time to really focus on the care of the collection, the objects, which after all, as a museum, is one of your primary goals or interests. Think about the construction schedule early and include all departments if there are multiple departments at your site, and build in padding to the construction schedule. Schedule overruns are almost an inevitable part to any construction. Many times it's because it's entirely out of your hands. Whether it's delivery of objects, or items that are being installed, equipment, whether it's manpower issues. There are many things. Weather can be a related issue. We had our project over the winter months, so we were concerned that obviously a snowstorm might impact our schedule. We did not have a snowstorm this winter. We were very fortunate to have a very mild winter from that respect, so we never got an impact from that particular aspect. But you always want to be concerned about construction schedule and building in padding, particularly if you, at your site, use part of the space for events or programming, weddings, educational programming, whatever the case may be. Try not to schedule those too early at the appointed time of your return, because it could cause issues. The team that we put together here at Dumbarton House included, of course, Dumbarton House staff as well as board members, executive department, curatorial, education, facilities, events, development. The reason you want all those people is because they're all going to be impacted by the construction, and the construction really, the end result in our particular case, an HVAC system, is going to impact every one of those departments. Development is going to try to be raising money to pay for it. Events are going to be impacted because, well, they rely on air conditioning or heating, obviously. Facilities that are going to be in charge. Education, again, with programming, curatorial, collections with concern for the collections and their care, and of course the executive department directing all this work. Another group that's extremely important part of the team are preservation consultants. They're probably one of the ones you want to get on as soon as possible to the project. They're going to act in many ways as sort of an owner advocate, and may speak to issues that you may not have expertise represented in your staff or board for those particular aspects of the project. So preservation consultants are a very important part of the team. And then, of course, architects and engineers. The work doesn't get done with without either of them. So they are critical elements. And it's critical to have this group here in the project planning as early as possible. We certainly had put together a team that did not remain exactly the same members from the very beginning, but we had a team put together in 2012, as early as 2012, many of whom, I should say rather, came all the way through the project into 2017. So 5 years before, we had members of this team together talking about this project. History of the site here can be very complex. It can also, I assume, at all of your sites, be as convoluted and complex as well. This site has seen many changes over the years, many of which impact, of course, the particular system that we were changing out at Dumbarton House. You see a series of photos here, circa 1870 and 1890. Those particular photos, clearly the house has changed physically, outwardly. One thing that separates those two on the top from the two on the bottom is that the house itself sat in a completely different location. So the house was moved. Believe it or not, it will be, even though the house was moved in 1915, there were some of those issues that we were still dealing with this project in 2017. And then, of course, in 1922 and post-1931, again, additional changes that had taken place within the structure, behind the walls, that important to understand, and also to convey to particularly the architects and engineers of, what is part of the historic fabric of the house. What can or cannot be done, what can be modified, what can't be modified. Dumbarton House also had another particular watershed year, and that's 1991. Went through a major renovation, major expansion with the inclusion or construction of an elevator and a ballroom. It was also the year that the HVAC system that were replaced was initially installed. So it was dating back to that time period. In large part, that's why the HVAC system had to be replaced. It had reached really the extent of its life and was ready, was showing some issues. 1991 was a remarkable year and a remarkable project that was undertaken. The East Park was created here at Dumbarton House, as well as the ballroom and the elevator and the HVAC system. It really was an extensive project. The history of any system that you're looking to replace for the project is probably very critical. It helps the engineers in particular to understand what the previous sort of set of restrictions were seen to be, and it helps them understand why, if they know why something was done in the past, why they may not be able to do something different, or how they might be able to do something different now. It just would depend. So in our particular case, the history of the system also dictated sort of the beginnings and the establishment of the project itself. 1991, of course, the installation of the chiller and ductwork system. 1992, the installation of a new chiller. Oddly enough, the initial chiller completely failed within a year of it initially being installed. I don't know if that was a shades of things to come type of deal or what, but it failed almost immediately. It wasn't until 2010 that a major portion of the HVAC system was replaced. The compressor, which sort of the engine of the outside chiller unit, burned out and had to be replaced. Of course, it burned out in August. Why wouldn't it? When it was most needed. 2013, compressor again failed, again in August. It seems like August is our month to test systems here. And yes, you probably have guessed the next, what's coming up next, the chiller compressor failure and replacement. Again, in August in 2014. We were fortunate that after 2014, we did not get another failure, thankfully. But you can see why, really, after 2010 and the replacement of the chiller, then it became a priority to really start thinking about and considering what the options were with respect to replacing this system. And certainly, as 2013 and then 2014, we realized we were living on borrowed time with this particular system. One of the things that I mentioned at the top of the presentation is trying to connect other projects. This will, in many ways, you want to look at any of these projects as how am I going to limit impact on the collection in the museum, one of the primary goals here. How am I going to improve the conditions on site for the collection, even with the HVAC system aimed at doing just that? What are other projects that could potentially do the same thing and increase the protection of the collection? In our case, we looked at window conservation for the historic structure. It was part of our strategic plan, but we hadn't initially thought we were going to do it at the same time. After sitting down with the stakeholders, engineers, architects, of course, board members, staff members, and really truly examining what we're trying to achieve here at Dumbarton House with the new system, it made perfect sense for us to go through a window conservation process. This also is going to impact your budget because window conservation does not happen for free. And so it became a very critical element to our project. Renovation of collection storage. This again too was something that we were working on. We were fortunate that at the same time that we received a National Endowment for the Humanities grant for the HVAC system, we also received an Institute for Museum and Library Services grant for a little over $100,000 to completely renovate our collection storage. It made sense for us to take on this project at the same time as the HVAC system because otherwise we'd be moving collection pieces twice. So we were putting in jeopardy the collection double time simply if we did not do this all at once. And it made no sense to put it off, particularly since we also had been awarded money. We talked to IMLS because we had actually received the IMLS grant relatively slightly before the NEH grant, and said, we know that this project is supposed to start right away, but here's our story. We have an HVAC. It made perfect sense to them. They said, well, of course, we'll put it off. You can put it off another year and start the project at the same time as you would the HVAC system. So it worked out very well. And granting agencies are willing to work with you to solve issues like that should something like that occur. Installation of museum lighting. We currently have no lighting in the museum to speak of, other than a few floor lamps that we strategically locate around the rooms to light up the spaces. So we have the goal. We know that we need museum lighting. The unfortunate part, though, is after having looked at it, is there was no way we could sort of wedge this project financially into the existing budget and project. So what we were able to do was to get from various lighting professionals an understanding of how much electricity we might need during or for a museum lighting project. And so as a result, what we could afford to do and what we did was we had extra circuits and wiring run while the wiring for the new HVAC system was being run. They were run simultaneously. So now we have electrical in place when we are able to actually do the lighting. Does someone just have a question? So we're good to go from that standpoint. So now we can focus on figuring out how we get the money to do the lighting, and we have the electrical, at least most of the electrical in place. Update security systems or keyless entries. We examined that. We decided for a variety of reasons we didn't really need to do that right at the moment. That can go either way. It's evaluating for your particular project and your particular site how those will work. For us, in this particular instance, it just didn't quite. The one that we had was working was adequate. It's certainly not ideal, but it is adequate. So we decided to put this off actually until a later date. Fire suppression system. We did not have the appropriate mechanisms in place to really fully evaluate the need for the fire suppression system. We did, however, have, while new ductwork was being run, we did have the space evaluated by the architects to see if there was available space to run conduit for a fire suppression system. We did find that the chimney boxes in our particular instance had available space. Should we want to get a fire suppression system, we could easily install a mist system within the fire boxes, chimney boxes, running from one floor to the next in a historic structure. And since the chimney boxes are, in fact, themselves not original to the house, but were built out in the 1930s, we basically have available to us a space that is adequate to expand with a fire suppression system should we come to that decision at some point later on. So there was some value in evaluating it, but we could not afford financially to bring that project into this larger HVAC system project. Paying for this particular project, as well as some of the work leading up to it, has come in large part due to grants from National Endowment for the Humanities, National Trust, IMLS. DC Commission on Arts and Humanities actually gave us money to renovate the windows. We're very grateful for that. That came sort of in the towards the end of right before the project began. We had, of course, the NEH Sustaining Cultural Heritage Collection grants, both a planning and implementation grant. The planning grant was key in helping us understand the system that we had, and also key in helping us find procedures that would allow us to maintain the system in as cost-effective way as possible while we planned on the replacement of that system. So it was a very critical part, the whole planning grant, and it brought our team of experts together early into the project in 2012 to help us start with this project. One of the key things for this project, as well as any, I think, that involves a historic house is preparing for the move of your collections. Individual items have to be packed, as well as the boxes that the individual items go into have to be palletized or put together in some way to help, really from an inventory standpoint, but also from a really cost benefit standpoint as well. The key to any collections move is a slow and methodical approach. We started packing for this project a good year or more before the project began. Planning for it really took place a year and a half to 2 years before the project began. Calling and getting estimates, talking to collection movers who have done this sort of thing before, asking them what their recommendations are and preparing for that. And we also had brought on extra staff to assist us in that process, which is also very critical. You see on the screen here in the slides our collections assistant, Croy, doing basically what you can see in the images here, the process that she would undergo for one item, and we had approximately, well, a little under 3,000 objects, including manuscripts. But each item is measured, each item is evaluated. We did a evaluation of each object so that we now have a condition report of each object, which is extremely valuable. You want to do some type of conditioning when you're packing your object to be moved out, because when it comes back in, you have to then do another conditioning to make sure that it is, in fact, in the same condition coming back as it was when it left. Each object, in this particular case, this is a hot water plate, is measured, assigned a numbered tray in a box. It is fitted out so that it fits in the tray comfortably. There's plenty of cushioning, ethafoam supports, tissue donuts are used in this particular case. So now you see the plate as it's placed in the tray with the supports to keep any pressure off the tray. And there you see Allison then putting the final tissue around it. It's now wrapped in the box, and she's going on to the next item. So each individual item is handled in that particular way. Then each one of those items, perhaps 3 in a box, depending on the size of the item, could be just one thing in a box. Each one of those boxes then was put into a sort of packable pallet. They're called Kiva boxes, and we were fortunate in that the National Museum of the American Indian, Smithsonian, had really just sort of hundreds of these Kivas, and they lent us 20 of those for our move out project. So we were very fortunate to get that cooperation and support from colleagues at the Smithsonian to help us with packing up our collection. So that, and these Kivas are allowed, you can stack them too high. And that's incredibly, incredibly important. It helped us really come in under budget with our collection storage costs for this project. Preparing the move of the staff and the offices. In our particular case, Dumbarton House serves as the headquarters as well as the museum. So we had staff and their offices and everything that pertains to their specific job duties all had to be evaluated and moved off-site. Where's the staff going to go? Where's the office equipment going to go? What will the staff need to take with them? This in no means is a fruitless task, because this also serves as sort of a business continuity plan. Once you start down this path, you then have a sense of not only what you have to do for this particular project, but also what needs to take place should disaster befall your institution, fire, flood, hurricane, whatever the case may be. You know now, from just having done this exercise, what it would take really to maintain your operation. It becomes extraordinarily important, particularly from the education department standpoint. when their entire sort of reason for existence is the house and its collection. Should anything befall them, the house and the collection that is, how does the education department do? So this is the sort of thing that we were preparing for here. As you can see on this image here, on the left, a lot of our office equipment and things that we weren't taking with us but had to be cleared out of offices actually went into the museum itself. The museum no longer had collections in it, so we could actually store things in the museum during the course of the project, which was extremely helpful. It meant that we weren't renting additional storage space. And it meant, too, that come time to move back in, everything was already on site. We didn't have to wait for delivery and coordinate that aspect of the move. So we were very fortunate from that standpoint. Picture on the left is just some of the initial construction work that was taking place. We had a great construction management company that oversaw the project for the most part on site. They did a lot of covering of items that were still left in place. Our reception desk there was left in place, but it was completely covered in coroplast, which is sort of a plastic corrugated board. And they used that for protection, and it fared very well. Budgets are extremely key. Budgets help you make plans for what it is you're likely to have to spend money on. Obviously, I mean, we all know that, right? But each step of the way, budgets become very important in making decisions on what direction you're going to go in, what directions you can afford to go in particular. One budget analysis that we had done early on, this came out of our HVAC study that took place in 2012 and 2013, was a life cycle cost benefit analysis. So it basically examines 3 different types of HVAC systems. Conventional, just a simple straight replacement of the chiller and boiler setup that we previously had here at Dumbarton House, versus a geothermal package versus a VRF, or variable refrigerant flow type of system. The cost-benefit analysis gave strong indications that geothermal would work perfectly for us. We had a site that worked well for that particular type of system, and so we decided to approach the project from the standpoint that geothermal was going to be the primary direction in which we would go in. All indications suggested that that would really benefit us in the long run. We recoup the costs quickly and have a system really that would last indefinitely with really only the replacement of certain parts. We did a preliminary budget when applying for NEH. Again, that preliminary budget indicated to us, and this is going through and contacting contractors and architects and engineers about the system, and the preliminary budget indicated to us that, again, geothermal was still looking like a very positive approach for us. We, by 2016 of June, June of 2016 rather, we had hired a construction manager. That construction manager provided us with a preliminary budget. Again, they're going out and talking to suppliers and other contractors, electrical, plumbing, whatever, for this project to get a more precise but strictly preliminary budget. Again, geothermal was the leading candidate. It was looking, it looked very well. The project had escalated in cost a slight amount, but it fit well within our project budget estimations. July, We had a permit set of drawings from the architects and engineers, so we had a clear understanding of how the system would look. We had a very, with only some minor changes yet to be done, a very clear set of drawings and plans. And again, the geothermal looked like a positive aspect. By September, we had the bid drawings, so we had really sort of the final drawings. These were the ones that were sent out to bid to contractors to start awarding contracts for the project to our various aspects of the project. However, when that came back, the mechanical cost had gone up 300% from the previous budget. So, as you might expect, the wind was really sort of blown out of our sails with this particular awakening. It's been, we talked about with the construction manager and the engineers and some of the contractors, you know, why suddenly did we see this 300% increase in the budget? And there are a variety of reasons why. We were in many ways a victim of the success of the construction that's going on in Washington, D.C. right now. Many of the contractors could really, in a sense, propose any type of cost they wanted because they had so many projects that fitting in what was a big project to us was a small project to them. They could really effectively just name any price, and that's in fact what was, at least in part, going on. So needless to say, with a 300% increase for the mechanical costs alone, the whole overall project had doubled basically in cost. Geothermal was no longer an option for our site. We were able to get an HVAC installer who said they could do a VRF system, a variable refrigerant flow system, pretty much within the budget of what we were planning. It certainly was extraordinarily close, and so it was decided that we would go with a VRF system, which is all well and good. The problem is that it is now September, October, then into November was when the project was to begin. So we had to have a completely new design undergone. We'd already received permitting for the previous design, so it was a lot of rework that had to take place in a very short amount of time for the new system. But we had a new system designed by the end of November into December. We had a new system design. We had a new budget, which was on course with what our previous budget had been, and where project was underway by January, but by this time we're 2 months behind. But we were fortunate in that we had an extraordinarily good construction management company that really kept people on track with respect to timelines for the project. So we were very beneficial, or we were very lucky that way. I threw this slide in just to show you the nice, neat set of wells that would have appeared on our property. The lower left is for the outline of the house, and where the little red dots are is the parking lot. The wells would have fit there perfectly, 21 of them, to supply heat and cooling for our system. But alas, it was not to be. So instead, we went with a ducted VRF system. Basically 2 units outside that both heat and cool a refrigerant of some sort that then sends it to various air handlers, of which we have 9 throughout the house, that then distributes hot or cold air. We also have dehumidifiers and humidifiers attached to the system as well, which we did not have before. So we have an amazing system. It does exactly what we had wanted our system to do initially. It's just that the engine driving it is these outdoor. The system that we had hoped for. Related projects, just want to get through these pretty quickly here just to give you a sense. Like I said, windows became a project. You're looking at, in this picture, one of only two, we think, maybe original windows from the 1799 construction, original structure. This window was an attic window in the front gable of the house. Once the preservationists took the window out and went through the process of removing the glazing, the old glazing and the old paint, there wasn't much left of the window. However, we were able to save, or I should say they were able to save, rather, about 85% of the original window. So there was some remanufacturing that had to take place of missing parts. All the little elements, the little metal sheeting, nails, everything that had been holding the old window together, I have in a box in collection storage. So we kept all the remnants, but we also, with the rebuild and renovation, had a new or a better preserved portion, at least, of the original window to the house. Another thing that we discovered that we weren't aware of that enhanced our understanding of the site was that there was some evidence of fire damage on this window. So it seems obvious that there was a fire in the attic at some point in time. We know that the roof has been replaced. We didn't know why or when. It could very well have been a fire that precipitated that. So what we thought we knew and what we ended up finding out was slightly different about our house and its history. And so an important aspect of that came out of this project. And there's the window as it looks right before it was reinstalled. Collection storage as it looked before, just random metal shelves and things sitting on the floor, and collection storage. I guess we were fortunate that we had a storage space to begin with, but it was space that needed some work. There you see some of the crowded conditions there. We had a door in collection storage to the elevator. Extremely valuable to have that to move things in and out of collection storage and into the rooms of the house. Unfortunately, it's a big open plunger of hot or cold air that we had to figure out how to control. So we ended up putting in a nice sliding door with seals. It looks amazing now. Old image of some of our archives, the way they existed before. This image is a little bit hard to see, but I wanted to throw it in. On the right is new compact shelving for the collection storage space. So all the objects that were sitting on the floor or on top of each other now have a space on a shelf in collection storage. They have their own dedicated space, as well as all the archives that now fit in the room to the left. So we have one big contiguous space that is both archives and collection storage that is handled by one air handler and humidifier and dehumidifier. So it's really sort of an isolated system within our house that protects our collection. This all thanks to, in large part, IMLS for their support. I wanted to throw this in. Managing previous projects is something that is part of any project that you get involved in for your site. Obviously, disassembling and throwing away the old HVAC system is part of that project. Old ductwork had to be removed. You can see why we wanted the ductwork replaced. That is dirt and mold in the interior of the ductwork that were removed from our site. I think it was a value not only to our collection, but the health of the people who work at the site to have that ductwork removed, obviously. It's in pretty bad shape. I like to call this slide the attack of the electrical tentacle monster. Again, we are looking at previous projects that have taken place over the many years of this house's existence. wiring and holes drilled through what I might add are original floor joists to the house, 1799 floor joists. Holes and wired run in every possible direction. It's these types of projects that once you open up the ceiling, we had nobody on staff aware of this particular type of condition. And we took the ceilings, the drywall ceiling that had been put up there, and took it down and discovered this. So we learned something new about our house and the existing systems as well as previous systems. An old Wells Fargo monitoring system that isn't in use anymore, but was abandoned in place when our current monitoring system was installed. So we didn't know that was there. It was nice. Someone apparently felt the need to repair the floor under the lower passage with a remnants of a wine crate box. Not entirely sure when that took place, but that was new to us as well. Clearly, not that it was surprising to us that someone used a wine crate, although that is a little surprising, but it was surprising to us that repair work had been done in that portion of the lower passage in the floor. We weren't aware of that. We discovered some problems that were able to be solved when doing the renovation of the new windows. There was a sill on the second floor that had completely rotted away. We were able to address that issue. We know it's very likely we had some plaster issues in the ceiling of the room right below this window. It's very likely that water infiltration at this point had caused that plaster damage. So we have, in a way, solved another issue while solving this one. So we're very fortunate in that respect. Again, another image of some of the floor joists. You can see the previous construction project had attempted to remedy the problem that exists there with the existing floor joists. Is almost completely deteriorated from both insect damage and possibly water damage as well. I threw this in here as a couple of our architects, our education manager, and our construction manager. Keeping the project team members aware of what's going on and involved in the project constantly is a critical aspect to any project. And, the construction, the project team not only should be there from the very beginning, but they'll be there at the end, and they will be there after the project or the keys are handed back to you. The project is technically over, but it's important to keep that relationship going. So just really to sort of conclude, the schedule for any of this is important. When to begin, thinking about public programs, events, exhibitions. When do these things come to an end? When is the last wedding? When is the last public program? Can we shut down exhibitions? When can we get the collection off site? When does that make sense to start the project? When can staff be off site? Does it make more sense for the staff to be on site to a certain extent and then leave later? Do they need to leave earlier? Business operations, how does that all come together? How does that continue? And then the return is pretty much the same thing. When are public programs scheduled to start up? Events. Have we scheduled weddings already at the tail end of our project? When? How much of the project needs to be completed for those events or weddings to take place? Exhibitions, is there a schedule? Collections, do we need those for part of our public programs? Obviously, we'll need collections for exhibitions. When can they be brought back? Staff to do the work, and of course, business operations. How is that flow of return likely to take place? All very key and important aspects of planning, project planning. And this is just a sort of limited list of the people involved in this project. The NSCDA, of course, primary driver, primary group responsible for overseeing this project, but a whole host of other entities that helped us in aiding us in really successfully completing this project. And that's all I have.
Great, thank you, Jerry. Did anyone have any questions for Jerry? I'm trying to unmute some of you. Looks like a number of you self-muted, so if you have questions, you're going to have to unmute yourself. And of course, Jerry is available for follow-up if you have any questions. Going on? Going slide? All right, well, thank you, Jerry, for the presentation, and thank you to all of those who participated. Hopefully you took something away from Jerry, and you can bring it back to your particular site. As I mentioned at the beginning, we did record this, so we will make it available for all of you to access at a later time. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and